Looking good. Moving stuff, eh? Moving stuff. Well, I'm actually going to share a very honest and personal story in connection to the Attica riots. So if you'd like to sit down and join us wherever you're standing, the other way, you can right on top. Right on top. Can you hold this?
No, the red has to be at the top.
There you go. There you go, teaching. Wow. It'll just be a few minutes, actually. My name is DeWitt Lee. I am a newly appointed member of a chapter of the UNIA that's been launched here in Toronto. And the UNIA is a government-based body for Black people of African descent, founded by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Mm-hmm. This is a flag that was founded by that organization in the 1800s. It is approaching 100 years old.
It was 19. Okay.
That's what I meant, 1900, and it's approaching 100 years old now. This is the actual flag that flew at City Hall last year, which made history. The first time ever that a Pan-African flag flew on municipal grounds, and we proudly carry it through the city. It most recently covered the casket of one of our lost members and now ancestors of our community. So I was very hesitant to come to this exhibit because I have a direct connection to the Attica riots. My name actually does. My name is DeWitt Lee III, and my father, DeWitt Lee Jr., found himself in Attica. Not only did he find himself in Attica, but he found himself in Attica during the riots. So when I knew this exhibit was up, I was very reserved for coming because it's a wound.
Yeah.
It's a wound, and I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't know what I was going to find. But I encourage you all to seek your history, embrace your history, because it's empowering. It's moving, and it's necessary for you to discover who you truly are. So I waited to the very end of this exhibit. Just 2 days ago, I was the first time I walked into this space. And after I got through the initial emotional portion of it by myself, I felt more confident to invite others to come share this moment, and for me to personally share something I've never shared before in my life, right? And this personal journey that I've been on in the last, I would say, few days doing research, I would say that I've learned more about why I do what I do because of who my father was. So I have 3 separate newspaper clippings here.
Are there any images of your dad that you've seen? Okay.
No, not that I've seen. So the dates of these news articles go from September 10th, 1972, December 22nd, 1972, and March 7th, 1975. The first article, published in the Rochester Democratic Chronicle, September 10th, 1972, they cover some things that happened, just some commentary about the experiences of living in Attica. But you see this block part of this page here, that's dedicated to my dad, okay? And so I have it zoomed in here, and I'm going to read to you what it says. It says he's become a model prisoner. DeWitt Lee Jr., AU 61396, is one of the model prisoners at Auburn. He has organized the prison's JC chapter, which involves 135 convicts in the community improvement projects within the 30-foot high walls. He has even been lent for 2 weeks to the minimum security correction facility near New York City to organize JCs there. He's preparing 54 inmates to take a high school equivalency test. He programs the prison radio program that the 1,500 convicts get to hear in their cells during their 14-hour night. And he, my father, was the calm voice that was heard over the loudspeakers in the prison during the riots. It says 35 hostages were being held at that time. And they were controlled by 400 rioting inmates for 7 hours on November 4th, 1970. Someone grabbed the microphone and said, "Kill, kill, kill." And it was my father's calm words over that microphone that said, "Be cool." Now DeWitt Jr. wants his freedom. He says, "I think I deserve an opportunity to be released. I took over at the risk of my own life, and we were able to prevent any lives being lost or any further bloodshed." Lee has asked the State Clemency Board to recommend to Governor Rockefeller to release him this year. He was sentenced to natural life in prison at the age of 19 years old, and he will have no other chance at freedom until he becomes eligible for parole. The hulking 6'3", 260-pound black man already served 14 years of his life driving the getaway car during a 1958 Lackawanna holdup that turned into murder. The 2 gunmen in the crime have since been executed in the electric chair. These were my family members. Lee, who described himself as a young punk kid going the wrong way, said he was convicted of first-degree murder because of racism. There was a white woman who was waiting with him in the getaway car, he said. And the understanding was that my dad didn't know what his cousins were going to do. So they just said, "We need a lift." And so my father is saying that this woman that was in the car, she was there just like I was there, innocently, and unsuspecting of a crime taking place. And she had an opportunity to speak on his behalf. But because this was 1970s, you didn't have interracial relationships. So she covered herself.
Right, like the Scottsboro boys.
And allowed him to be dragged to jail for life. But it wasn't until a moment of absolute chaos that he had an opportunity to be a hero. He had an opportunity to do something right. And trust me, the men and maybe women at the time who were hostages at the time, those weren't friends. Those weren't colleagues. Those were people who have held them in prison, who have treated them like an animal for 14 years. But it was the love in his heart and the understanding between right and wrong that led him to making that brave decision by picking up the microphone and saying 3 simple words: just be cool. And the thing is, he spoke to them in their own language. Just be cool, man, right? He didn't say, "Come on, guys, this is not right." Right? He didn't talk to them. He talked to them in their language, and that's the power that we have. That we can speak to each other and communicate to each other in a way that resonates, that connects. I don't know if you've seen the video on YouTube with the young man who broke up the fight, right? But he was able to talk to 2 young men and talk to them in their language. So my dad he used that access. He used that access to them to make a decision, and that decision saved lives. But it wasn't just those lives that were saved in that moment. He began the process of saving his own life. Because in the next article I'm going to read to you, which is December 22nd, 1972, it says 6 people were granted clemency by Rocky. That's what they called the Governor Rockefeller at the time. And my father's name was one of the 6 that was released. Now the story doesn't end there. And sure, we can give it up. Sure, I don't mind that. But the story doesn't end there. And that's why I feel so responsible to share the story. Because there's so many people who may get freedom today and taste freedom for the first time today. But then what happens? Where did they go from there? And so my father understood that. And that second opportunity that he received, he wasn't going to waste it. He knew that one day his son would be able to find this evidence of his good work, of his brave deeds, and be inspired as I pursue my own endeavors. So The last article I'll share with you is just a few years later, a couple years before I was born. It says ex-convict. And see, that's something you got to deal with. But you got to learn how to be okay with it. Because a lot of us are exes of something. I'm an ex something.
Even Dr. Martin Luther King.
Ex, right?
Was an ex.
So we can't allow what we were. Okay? We're true. Malcolm X, way to go. But we can't allow what we were to determine who we're going to be. And even though the world is going to continue to call you convict, and even though they put X in front of it, okay? You have to understand, you have to learn how to embrace it and learn how to reverse it. It's a reminder to reverse it. So here they are calling him out, ex-convict, a carrying key to change. And the article goes, DeWitt Lee Jr., the new executive director of the Western New York program to help prisoners, believes that the word rehabilitation is often misused. He says, my father, you can rehabilitate furniture, but you don't rehabilitate human beings. You give them the opportunity to change, Lee said. So an organization he created called Bridge Volunteer Associates, which heads programs to help prisoners enter back into society through work. But he understands that the greatest tool that you have to change someone's life is love. And he says here, after they run down a list of all of the things that this program has done by placing volunteers, prisoners into volunteer positions, and finding people who can actually communicate with those who are in jail. So he found volunteers to actually adopt the prisoner, okay? To show them love, right? To let them know that there's someone that supports them and believes in who they can be. And he says, my father says, that prisons need most are people who care for other people. Too often, he says, a prisoner who has lost his family, home, and friends sit in his cell and thinks only how he can get back at society. He feels he is wrongly convicted and people don't care about him. My father says we're trying to change that, and we are sensitive to the prisoner's feelings because we have ex-offenders on the staff. So, thank you. So, in closing, I want you to know something that they don't show you. Mr. Warren Salmon, please. Mr. Both Salmons. Okay, well this is it. This is the grand finale. This is where you come in and do your break dance, man. This is your break dance. Now you're up. What you don't see are the people who were able to change their lives after this. Okay? They leave you here like the fight, the struggle, the oppression, the dead end. But it wasn't a dead end for everyone. Okay? And this Attica, okay, what took place in Attica, this revolution that happened in Attica, okay, is an example on what people, and not just black people, but people of all likes can do together. Because when you look at those pictures, you'll notice it's not just black faces with fists in the air. Because freedom is not necessarily just a black thing. Injustice is not just a black thing. And when people can find a common denominator, come together, powerful things can happen. You can shake the world. And so when I look around and I see faces that resemble the collection of faces in the pictures here, I just want to extend that to you. That you don't walk out here thinking that this was just a black revolution. Although, without the framework of the black revolution, without the discipline and the organization that derived from the black revolution, there would have been no successful Attica riot. And so, as we leave here, I want you to know that although you may be in prison in some kind of situation in your life, you may feel like you're stuck somewhere, and there's nothing that you can do to make a change, right? My father found himself in a cell, and that opportunity to change lives, it came to him. It found him in jail. It found him in the middle of a riot. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, because there is going to be a place for you in this world to make a great difference like my father. And I hope that you're brave enough and bold enough to stand up and take that opportunity. So I thank you for being such a wonderful audience to hear this special story that has shaped my life and has really molded me to be the man I am. And I hear a lot of times now people ask me, why do I do what I do? And I'm pretty active on the activism space. I campaigned twice to be the next mayor of Toronto.
I've just called security on this gentleman here. Okay. So you're going to have a security incident about 2 minutes. I just want you to know that.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, we know how to successfully riot and get our demands heard. So we just studied how to rally against demand.
Do it, please continue.
Don't look, interrupt you.
So this is not a time. But nevertheless, I wanted to also, I'd be remiss if I did not go on record to say that we are a generation of freedom fighters. This organization, the UNIA, which now has a Toronto chapter, is headed by a division in Buffalo, New York. And when I invited the president of the Buffalo division of the UNIA, ACL, to come speak, there was a silence that came on the phone. And I said, well, what's the silence about? And he expressed to me that his father too played a role. And so I want to acknowledge his father, the Honorable Mr. Biden, who also played a small part in getting freedom and the demands met that the prisoners so desperately deserved. So there were people advocating inside the jail and people advocating outside the jail. So my father's story is one of those who found himself inside the jail, advocating for justice, fighting for what's right. His father, the Honorable Biden, was on the outside. And I'm just going to read a quick description of his work.
Guys, sit down.
Is he still here?
Yeah, please don't interrupt this proceedings.
No, is he still here?
Okay. So, we welcome our security officers. Welcome to be here. Thank you.
Is this gentleman over here black on?
So,
You gotta give us a few minutes, please. You can do it your shot. Unless you want to be famous,
no,
go
this
ahead.
is good. This is good. So, in closing, I'll just read this description here and we'll break. So, the Honorable Brother Herbert E. Blyden was Minister of Communications during the uprising. Along with organizing and negotiating the security work during the uprising, the court settled the case after his father and many of the Attica brothers were either sick, dying, or dead. And he says in his own words, the president of the UNIA ACL Division number 43 says, "We carry on their legacy of racial justice as we stand on the shoulders of giants." Ashe. Ashe. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being part of this moment. And I believe you still have some time to appreciate the rest of the exhibit.
It's 5.
5:30, that's right. I said you should. 5:15? Okay, so then that should give you at least 4 minutes.
And the flag will be 100 years old
That's right.
in 2020.
That's right.
August 13th.
And so we are building a movement where this flag will be seen prominently during Black History Month, prominently during what we call Emancipation Month of August. And actually, if anyone would like to just join us in a group photo, would you be welcome to do that? We'll take one over here. Join us in our photo. Come, please, sis. Where's my brother? Call. Oh, the UNIA stands for the United Negro Improvement Association.
And the ACL.
ACL is the African Community League. All right, let's do it right here, please, behind this wonderful text. And everyone's invited. Greetings.
Did you download
No, I didn't get that. Is that what that was?
online?
Yeah, do it usually does.
Sorry?
Do it usually does.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
What's up?
No, my name's Yasmin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so here's one thing that may really add some emphasis to what 1 minute of bravery can lead to, right? I am standing here among you as the third witness, right? Which would have never been had my dad not been in the world. There is 2 additional generations of witnesses. Okay, I have 2 sons, one 10 years apart, and I actually with the 4th and with the 5th who's here with us right now. All right, so come please join us right here. We're going to stand right behind this sign. And yeah, the camera's right here. So if no one doesn't want to be in the picture, then I'd love for you to use the camera for us. Thank you, brother. Would you do it? Thank you. You volunteer. I appreciate you, brother.